British and French fighter jets will close the skies over Ukraine. US President Donald Trump has agreed to a ceasefire with Russia. The Ukrainian delegation will hold talks with an American one next week. So what is known about the sending of Western aircraft to Ukraine, and why is Donald Trump confident that the Russians are ready to end the war? European allies have supported the proposal to create a sky shield over Ukraine to stop Russian attacks on cities and infrastructure. They want to involve 120 fighter jets in the project, according to The Guardian. European aircraft will patrol Ukrainian airspace over unoccupied lands in order, on the other hand, to protect Ukrainian civilians from Russian attacks, and on the other hand, to relieve the Ukrainian military so they can concentrate on the front lines. The patrol will cover 3 nuclear power plants in Ukraine and the cities of Odessa and Lviv, but it will not extend to the front lines on the eastern Ukraine. It is proposed to involve 120 fighters, F-16, F-16 AMBM, or operational equivalent provided by escadrons of other type of aircraft, F-35 Mirage, Eurofighter Typhoon, Gripen, flying from European air bases. Long-range radar surveillance aircraft, tanker aircraft, other support vessels, electronic intelligence will also be needed. Sky Shields was developed by the former Air Force planners who worked together with the armed forces of Ukraine. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump said in the recent days that he had managed to achieve significant progress in resolving the Russian-Ukrainian war. Quote, "We have made significant progress with Ukraine, we had made significant progress with Russia in the last few days, and it would be great to bring those together so that we don't have to talk like about nuclear weapons." Continuing to talk about the nuclear threat, he said that it would be great if everyone got rid of nuclear weapons. US President Trump wants also a condition for signing a deal on mining in Ukraine to be that Kyiv agrees to ceasefire as soon as possible in its war with Russia, which launched a full-scale attack 3 years ago. As Bloomberg reported, Washington has made it clear to European officials that Trump is ready to complete work on National Resources Agreement, provided that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky agrees to real path to ceasefire talks with Moscow. These additional conditions are the main reason that the economic cooperation agreement has not yet been signed, despite public statements by Trump and Zelensky indicating their readiness to sign the deal. There could be movement on the agreement in the upcoming days. Other officials warned Bloomberg that the US position could always change, since Trump is known for changing his mind. Several Trump's officials have said in recent days that the critical minerals deal is a crucial component and step forward to the president's plan to end the war. There is no indication, however, that Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is willing to end his invasion, nor is the United States pushing Moscow to compromise beyond what Zelensky has demanded. Any ceasefire would require both Russia and Ukraine to agree to ceasefire and end the hostilities. The US has been putting pressure on Zelensky in the coming days, suspending military aid and intelligence in moves that European officials say was aimed at persuading the Ukrainian leader to take a path that aligns with Trump's goal. At the same time, National Security Advisor Mark Waltz told Fox News that if the parties can move forward in these talks and essentially put some confidence-building measures on the table, then the president will look carefully at lifting the pause. At the same time, representatives of Trump's administration will meet with the Ukrainian delegation in Saudi Arabia next week, according to Fox News host and White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich. State Department head Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and US President's Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will travel to Riyadh. On Tuesday, Rubio, Witkoff, and Waltz are heading to Riyadh to meet with the Ukrainians, including Yermak, wrote Henrik. The meeting will take place against the backdrop of a crisis in relations between Ukraine and the United States after Trump's quarrel with Zelensky in the White House, after which the US suspended military aid and intelligence to Ukraine. As we will recall, on Thursday, the US President's Special Representative for Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg, said that the idea of returning to the Istanbul agreements expressed by Trump's Special Envoy Witkoff is not the position of the Trump's administration, and a new document needs to be developed. When asked if the Istanbul Protocol was something he had worked with to achieve a peace between Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg replied, no. Commenting on the proposal of another Trump special representative, Steve Witkoff, to make the Istanbul agreements a benchmark for concluding a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia, Kellogg said that he did not consider this agreement a fair starting point, since they were negotiated 30 days after Russia's full-scale invasion. Quote, the Istanbul demands were extremely serious for a weakened Ukraine. And here I would agree with what Steve said. And Steve said this is a starting point. I don't think that is a fair framework. I think we have to develop something new. If you want, you can start with those positions with the Russians. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham expects US President Donald Trump to impose new sanctions on Russia's weak economy if Vladimir Putin refuses to come to the negotiating table. The reason for Graham's statement was comments by Vladimir Putin, who said on Thursday that Russia would seek a peaceful settlement that would guarantee its own long-term security and would not back down from its conquest in Ukraine. Graham noted that in the past 84 hours, Ukraine has made important statements about ceasefire and agreement on mineral extractions and willingness to engage with peace talk. Instead, quote, Putin has publicly and persistently rejected Trump's proposals. If Putin refuses to come to the peace table seriously, I hope that Trump will impose more economic sanctions on Russia's banking and energy sectors and, if necessary, massive tariffs. The impact on Russia's already weak economy will force them to sit down at the negotiating table. He stressed that it is time to end the war between Russia and Ukraine fairly and honestly, as President Trump is trying to do. At the same time, The Telegraph writes that Kremlin suddenly supported Donald Trump's idea of ending the war because for Putin it was a disaster. Defeats on the front lines, sanctions and isolation are forcing Moscow to look for a way out. The Kremlin's propaganda machine is gloating, mocking the obvious concern of Europeans over the Trump administration attitude towards Washington's former allies. But this is only an attempt to divert attention from the real pressures that Russia is feeling due to its destructive military intervention in Ukraine. According to The Telegraph Defense and International Affairs editor Con Quillian, Russian propaganda media have begun to actively claim that Trump is joining the Russian version of the situation. However, despite all the statements of the Russian propaganda, the Kremlin hopes that Trump's return to the White House will bring the war to an end. Make no mistakes, Putin is weak and desperate for peace, Cohen wrote. The devastating impact of the war on Russian economy is becoming increasingly obvious. Interest rates have already reached 21% and the welfare fund is rapidly depleting, leaving the Kremlin without funds to continue the war. Against his background, Putin has repeatedly supported Trump's peace initiative. The publication emphasized that one of the signs that Moscow is looking for a way out of the conflict was its unexpected offer to mediate in negotiations between Iran and the United States over Tehran's nuclear program. In addition, also raised as Putin the possibility of introducing European peacekeeping forces into Ukraine, including British troops, would be a real disaster for Putin, since his main goal is to prevent any further Western incursion closer into Russia. The possibility of deploying European troops on Ukrainian soil to deter Russia's aggression is a huge threat to Putin's government. The Kremlin criticized French President Macron, who says that France and other European countries are ready to send their troops to protect the future peace agreement. That's all for today. Stay with us on YouTube and glory to Ukraine.